What's up? Welcome in. Hoge Jahns back with you post-Christmas. John, you hanging in there? You doing all right, buddy?
I'm doing okay. The baby is the first 3 weeks of a baby. I forgot are pretty darn hard.
It's tough. Yeah. It's been a few years for you. So we both got our coffees ready to go. You have plenty of valid reasons to not be well rested. Do you want to tell people when you woke up today?
About 15. Well, it's 10:30 now. 10:27 officially now. I got out of bed at 10:01.
That's impressive.
I think I was up at 5:30.
I was going to say, you obviously had to have been up earlier in the morning.
Yeah, I was up at 5:30 this morning and went back to bed. The thing about like this type of sleep is you're getting like 2 hour, 3 hour increments, and your dreams are like vivid. And they're usually quite insane.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, you've reached that part of the baby situation.
Yes. And it like brings in multiple worlds. Like, there's like some football-ness going on, and then there's like your social life, and there's family, and they're like all in the same room. And it's craziness.
Well, we feel for you. And I hope it was a good Christmas for you and your family, though, with the baby.
Cheers.
And we got the coffee, and we'll get through it. There's plenty of other liquids that were being consumed probably the last few days before this.
Yes.
Yeah, that we're also probably dragging from a little bit. But, hey, we're here for you as we always are. A couple more weeks to go in this season. I'm also tracking that sun reflection on you, Johns. I feel like there's a 97% chance that's going to be in your eyes by the time this podcast is over.
I'll close the blinds. It was good like 10 minutes ago.
Yeah, I know. I already see it moving. It's the winter, so the sun just like zooming across the screen.
Yeah, it's a sun.
We got a fun show for you today, though. Mark Grote, speaking of sun, I hope has experienced some sun in the last 48 hours to thaw out from what he experienced on Christmas Eve. I can't wait to hear what he had the battle in the elements.
Mark Grote, football survivalist.
Yeah, sideline reporter, of course, for BBM, and had to be out there during the Bears-Bills game. Follow us on Twitter at Adam Hoge, at Adam Johns. You can read Johnsy on The Athletic, theathletic.com/HoganJohns. I like what you did yesterday, man. You had some good insight checking in on a number of the moves that Ryan Poles has made, but getting the perspective of the teams that were involved. Like, hey, how's Roquan doing in Baltimore? What I was thinking of, like Claypool with Pittsburgh, but you forget that Larry Ogunjobi's in Pittsburgh. How's he been doing? And it sounds like, especially on that one, kind of what you would think. He's still a pretty good player, but can't really count on him to be healthy.
Yeah. Mike was telling me, the beat writer there for the Steelers, was he's been more than good, but when he's healthy, he's missed like entire weeks of practice multiple times this year, which isn't good, which is a sign that Ryan Poles may have made the right decision.
Mm-hmm. It
happens, and then you saw Khalil Mack look like Khalil Mack of old, but then that's Nick Foles of old.
Yeah. Well, Mack's I liked how, was it Popper who you checked in with the Chargers?
Yeah, Daniel Popper.
Yeah, Daniel Popper. He had I liked how he put that with Mack, because it's kind of like, it seemed like the Chargers had the right expectations. Like, they knew they weren't training for a defensive player of the year candidate. They wanted a guy who could approach 10 sacks, and he's getting there. So with that one last night, he's at 8.5, something like that.
He's getting a couple.
He's getting close. So, and that's probably what you wanted. All right. Well, and you can find me on CHGO at allchgo.com. Mark Grote is here, and we'll go ahead and bring him into the conversation here. I'm just kind of picturing him still frozen. Nope, he's thawed out. He's thawed out. There he is. What's up, Grody?
How fresh do I look? I've been chiseled out, and I gotta tell you, I did better than I thought I would do, and I think it's because as Jerry Angelo would say, I did my due diligence. For a week, I looked for advice and accepted advice. And Hoge, I will give you credit, my friend. You gave me the idea for the plastic bags as an extra layer on the feet. I think you called it a game changer.
Yeah.
And it worked. It definitely worked. It did the job until the fourth quarter. Like, honestly, like with about 90 minutes to go in the fourth quarter, Marky Mark was feeling it in the tips of his fingers and in his toes. So, but I did pretty well.
Yeah. So the tip I gave him was the I don't know. Did you end up getting? So I would always use the ice bags that the trainers would use. So I don't know if you just use like what kind of plastic bags you were using, but
Jewel bags, just jewel bags.
Yeah.
The jewels.
The jewels.
So I would get I learned this doing Northwestern games, and it actually started, Grody, with a game where it was raining, but it was like 38 degrees and raining, like that awful rain where like you just can't get your feet wet or you're going to be cold. And I forget who it was. I think it might have been one of the coaches or something gave me that. And they were like, go get some ice bags from the trainers and put your feet in them and then put your boots on over that. And no matter how waterproof your boots are, whatever, like your feet won't get wet. What I wasn't expecting is how warm that also kept them. So then I learned, because we had a game up in Minnesota where it was like 15 degrees and even colder with the wind chill. And I did the same thing, even though it wasn't raining. And I'm like, wow, this really does keep your feet wet or dry and warm too. And so I'm glad that worked out, at least for 3 quarters for you.
Yeah, it did. And then I guess the other tricks that I used that I had not used previously in cold weather scenarios was an advice that I took when I put my desperation call out on Twitter. Somebody suggested that I put surgical gloves on underneath the real gloves. Works, and you can still like text and tweet and do stuff on your phone with the surgical gloves on. So when I had to take the gloves off, because that's the worst part. Like when you're in this ridiculous cold and I've got my surgical gloves, I got my big gloves on, but then you got to take them off. Like if you want to jot something down in your phone, like, just keeping notes on my phone and all that. So the surgical gloves were a big help to all you cold weather fans out there. I did go with a double hoodie system for the torso. Very good. And then last trick was, and I credit the Bears, man. They Brandon Faber reached out and said, hey, if you need anything from us, just let us know. And I jumped on that because I needed one of those the baklava or whatever you call it, the thing you put up, like what the players wear. So like that thing as the base, and then just the regular hat over that. Never had an issue with my head or my ears at all.
So what piqued my interest, like this past week, like for this conversation, was you telling us in the media room how you've actually sat on the heated bench.
Yes.
Like I've always wanted to try that, like in live action. How many times did you do it?
No, actually, last week was the first time I did not this past Saturday. I did it again this past Saturday, but the previous week. It was the first time that I went ahead and sat on the heated bench before the game. It was probably about 10 o'clock or so. And I was just like, let me just check this out. And I was like, oh my God, this thing is for real. And it was not a place that I wanted to get up from once I sat down there, but I had to, because it got a little too warm.
Wow.
So I eventually did get up from it, but I
swass going on.
What's that?
Some swass going on.
yeah, exactly. Whatever you want to call it. Swamp ass, swass. Yeah. That eventually it became an untenable situation for me to stay on the heat.
It might freeze now.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, man. I mean, you got Hoge. I know you know this, but those big metal heaters too they have down there. Those things are for real. I mean,
like the airplane jet engines that they put down there on the sideline. They're just and sometimes they'll have those out on the practice field too. When we go out there, just on a random Thursday, and if you stand in the right spot, you can catch some of the heat coming off that thing. It's a veteran move.
John's like during this game though, there were the players are pretty good about. They are very good about allowing me and other people that are on the security people, if they want to come and get a quick warming up around the big heaters. But this was the first time where it was tough to find a spot because the Bears players were huddling around it. It was like everybody was trying to box everybody out and like get closer to it. I'm like, Yeah, I'll probably just, I'll just pop open another one of those little hand warmers. I'll be good. Maybe I'll duck into the tunnel for a couple minutes, but I've never seen that many players huddled around the big hot metal heaters. And they had a couple small ones too that they snuck in on both sidelines that the players were able to stand around too. But it was pretty tough for me to get position on those heaters this week.
Well, Grody, thanks for jumping on with us today because I know you were doing the early morning shift on 670 The Score. I was just listening to you driving in, and I'm actually filling in for Parkins later. So
I know
we're bookending the Hoge Jahns podcast here with some
I
670.
just heard that. I just had one of our colleagues, Gabe Ramirez, come in here and give me the whole schedule. So I was glad to hear that you're coming in this afternoon, man.
So since you were down there. And I mean, certainly, look, Johns and I were the epitome of the opposite of situation you were in. We were at home enjoying we didn't even go to the game. We were just enjoying it at home on Christmas Eve. But it certainly looked like on TV, the weather actually was affecting certain plays, whether it was just drops you don't usually see, like Cole Kmet had one. To me, Justin, I don't know if his legs are just tired because the season's going on, or if he was slower because of the cold and whatever. The turf seemed like it's in pretty good shape, but what did you see on the sideline? You had the best view of how those elements were actually affecting the play on the field.
Well, and actually, Adam, that's interesting that the field looked good from television. This is funny, as I was sitting on the heated bench before the game, there was a starting Bears offensive player who came over near the heater, and I asked him, I said, "Hey, how's the field?" And his two words were, "It sucks." so the field was not a pleasant place. And I'll tell you what, one of the more interesting parts too was watching the offense warm up, because Justin Fields was trying all sorts of things, like with the passing game, like trying to adjust with the wind. And you saw the receivers, trying to adjust when Justin Fields was flinging up bombs during the pregame. And you could see Justin Fields and the receivers oftentimes just kind of like shaking their heads like, oh man, this is going to be a trip, which makes it even more incredible that Justin Fields did have that connection with, of all people, Velus Jones Jr. on the 44-yard play. But to your point, I mean, it did. Yeah, this was one of those cases where the buildup was correct. It did affect a lot of things that the Bears were trying to do. And yeah, I also don't know what we can narrow it down to as far as why Fields carried the ball for 7 times for only 11 yards. We Matt Eberflus talked about the spies, and they kind of did some things similar to what Atlanta had done, using their defensive ends to keep an eye on what. So And I watched Fields before the game, and he was going through all his usual running drills. He didn't seem limited in any way, shape, or form. But yeah, once they got out there, there was a certain bit of it that did feel like survival for these guys, and just not a day to really get in. And we saw it from the other side too. I mean, Josh Allen, relatively speaking, didn't have a good game either.
How did the coaches handle that? I imagine like that type of cold affects all sorts of decision making. I'm not making excuses, but like, how did you see the coaches handle it? Were they sneaking seats on the heated bench? Were they, making sure you can't get in front of those space heaters? Like, how were Flus and all those guys handling it?
That's a great question. I never saw the coaches getting in front, because Luke Getsy's down there. Obviously, yeah. Matt Eberflus, Alan Williams is down there. Not once did I see those guys getting in front of they were not part of the crew that did that. And I don't know if that's just a thing with the coaches. You got to be, I guess it would be kind of weird if you saw the coach on the sideline doing this, and, because they've got to have that stalwart look when they're on the sideline. But that's good. I'm curious to know what the process was for Matt Eberflus. And, they're taken care of very well by Tony Medlin, the longtime Bears equipment guy. I'm sure that they had all those same tricks that I had too. But, to their credit, I did not see them huddling around the heater like the rest of us.
You know what's funny? I think part of it is, and obviously I haven't coached in a game that cold, but you sort of just forget about it because there's too much going on.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense? Like, because we've had some cold high school games and like you're worried about, you spend like all day worrying about it. Do I have enough layers on, blah, 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 because you don't want to be cold. And then like the game starts and next thing you know, it's halftime. And you're like, oh man, I wasn't even thinking about the weather because like you just don't have time to worry about it.
Yeah, I was thinking about that too with like what if, and everybody knows the pain that you could feel in your like fingers and toes, like where you just feel like you want to die. It's so cold and it feels like your fingers are going like what if you're a head coach and you're starting to feel that and you're just like, screw this, I want to get this game over, like just run, get me out of here. Because I mean, to some degree, I mean, and it was brought up, it can be a situation. I mean, that frostbite is real. And I assume all the players came out of it okay, but there was some cold looking faces for sure.
I actually think it's a valid point too, because they showed Ken Dorsey, the Bills OC, up in that booth, in a hoodie. And the guy next to him, I think, was in short sleeves. You know what I mean? And then they go to Getsy, and Getsy's like bundled up like I've never seen a coach bundled up before. And I did wonder when they did, like, I'm like, that kind of seems like at least a small advantage for Dorsey. I mean, you're scanning your play sheet the whole time. You need your fingers.
Yeah,
like usually you have a Sharpie you're trying to write with and all this stuff. And I'm like, this is maybe a rare situation where if I was Getsy, I would have maybe thought about for 1 week going upstairs, even though that would have greatly changed the communication level, obviously, that you have with your quarterback and your players down there.
Yeah, he may rethink it next time. It's funny because obviously Luke Getsy has been through a lot of cold weather games, having coached in Green Bay. I've been on the sidelines for some extremely cold games as well, including in Green Bay. But as a lot of the players were saying, like, there's never been anything like that people have been a part of. I talked to Velus Jones Jr. I think was one of the first people I talked to in the locker room after the game. And even before we began our conversation, he was like, man, he's like, I have never played in anything close to like that. And he played at Tennessee and all that kind of stuff. But this was a different animal. And even if the coaches and the players thought they knew what they were getting into, I don't think they knew what they were getting into. And I do wonder if there's ever a game like that again, if we would see some, we'd see Luke Getsy go upstairs, maybe even Alan Williams, because it really, I imagine you can be more productive on those ridiculously horrible weather days. And
I just think of Tom Coughlin with his bright red cheeks. Remember that? With
the Vaseline?
Yeah, not even over.
Yeah. He would be smeared in Vaseline. That was one thing I didn't do. I did not. I just can't put Vaseline on my face. Something about that just doesn't jive with me. So I didn't do the Vaseline thing. Have you guys ever done that?
No.
I've never done it. No.
Yeah, I'm not interested in the Vaseline thing. I'm okay with that. Without that.
How much in pain did Justin Fields look like late in the game as he's coming off? You see the broadcast copy. I know he's throwing on the sideline, but it's a conversation now because Matty Eberflus said we're not shutting him down. He's good to go, but he looked in pretty bad shape, or at least in pain at the end.
When he, I think it was the third quarter when he landed on his shoulder. And then it was one of those times where, as a sideline reporter, because I'm all over the side, I'm just back and forth all the time, I was in the exact right spot. And so I was right close to feel like almost face to face. And he just grimaced. Like I could see through the face mask from the shoulder thing. So I was like, uh-oh, here we go again with the left shoulder thing. So he was in bad shape right there and in a lot of pain. And he just kept, when he came to the sideline, he's kind of rejecting the help, but he's shaking his head. He's getting to the bench and he's kind of slouching his shoulder down. And then when he got stepped on and he's limping off the field, I mean, that's the one that frightened me, because I thought, okay, now he's hurt. It's like, or maybe it was back to some of the dehydration issues, the cramping issues that he had. But you could tell that Justin Fields was flustered by some of the limitations that I think he felt he was having in the second half of the game. But played through it, and obviously you guys know that there is no talk of shutting them down for the last 2 games, which I like, actually.
Well, and I especially like it for this week because you're going back inside. You're playing on turf. Justin said that he likes playing on turf. It's a fast surface for him, and I just think it's at least one last opportunity to get him in ideal conditions to see what he can do. And I don't know if they're going to have Claypool back this week or anything, but if they do, you can build on that, build on what Vela. I'm all for him playing at least one more game this week.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, not to mention that the Detroit and Minnesota have poor pass defense. So, I mean, in theory, if you hope to make some progress or leave a good feeling in the system, those are good scenarios. Chase, I did talk to Chase Claypool before the cold weather game, and I just kind of asked him straight up. I said, "Is this a situation where they're just going to shut you down for the last 2 games?" He's like, "No." He's like, "I'm still week to week." He's like, "I want to get in there. I want to play." He thinks he's going to play, and amazingly, Tevin Jenkins said that he thought about playing in the game Saturday. So, wow. I mean, considering what we saw at Soldier Field the previous week with him being down, it's pretty amazing. I think Tevin Jenkins is going to play.
You use the words like good feeling. Like, how much do you think like their decision making is just like searching for that good feeling to end the season? And they've lost 8 in a row. They've been close. They've been in games. You've seen some good things from the quarterback, good things from Kyler Gordon, other young players. But that win, like that.
Yeah, well,
unattainable win.
One thing we got to right at the end of our show on the score today was the question that Matt Eberflus was asked. Is there long-term value in winning these last 2 games? And he said, yes, absolutely, 100%. That it would, he said that it was all about the finishing thing, which the Bears obviously we've heard that for the last 8 straight weeks from Eberflus. We got to finish, yeah, we got to finish, okay, but it hasn't happened. So, and it's funny because that's in direct conflict with what most people are thinking, that the long-term value for this team may be better off losing the next 2 games, because in theory you get the better pick and all of that. But Flus sees some positive if they are to win out. And I'll say this too, like, I mean, it's hard to carry on a positive message when a team in the NFL has lost what is a devastating 8 straight games. But I remember after the Washington game when Justin Fields was just a mess. He was hurt. He was upset because he was hearing those messages of
we're close.
Hey, we're doing fine. And he said we're sick of coming close. But since that game, we haven't heard anything like that from Justin Fields or any of the players. So clearly there is a message from the top that is, hey, look, here's what we're playing for. Here's what we're doing. There can be success even in an 8-game losing streak, which sounds preposterous, but I guess it's true.
Well, but here's the thing, and where I'm willing to buy what Flus is saying to a certain extent. I mean, aren't we still looking at that Patriots game as, a sign of hope for the future and good feelings for the way they adjusted, the way Eberflus outcoached Belichick, the way Fields played in that game? I mean, that's going to be a game we talk about all offseason. And so, and I don't think we're talking about those same good vibes if they don't win that game. Now, so I do think, and I've been saying this all along as this debate's been raging, Grody, like, I think both sides are right on this. Like, I think there can be benefits to winning. We've all covered this sport long enough to know that winning can cure everything, or it can at least mask problems for a little bit. We've seen both of those come true. And at the same time, we all understand the value of potentially getting the number 1 overall pick in the draft, and how long-term, I think that especially in the situation the Bears are in right now, that probably has more of a long-term benefit than, beating the Lions this week.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. And it is wild to think. I mean, you brought up the Patriots game. That's the last time the Bears won a game.
A long time ago.
There were some games thereafter that actually did almost feel like wins, because Justin Fields was blossoming as a running quarterback and doing unbelievable things, which was a big distraction from the big elephant in the room that actually existed. And I think that I'll say this. I mean, I think, Bears fans have done a good job this for the most part. I mean, they're of compartmentalizing what this season is and watching it for what it is. And if the best thing that comes out of the season is that your quarterback is starting to blossom, then that's a really, really positive thing for the Bears. I mean, and the 8 games that they have lost, there's been many problems, many breakdowns, including this past week against Buffalo, which go well beyond what the weather was. I mean, the Bears defense put the Bears offense in situations all day to do something, and they didn't. But there's been just enough good things happening over the last 8 weeks to somehow keep us in the right shape.
Well, it's the quarterback, and I think this is where it differs from, like on the last podcast, Grody, Adam and I brought up what happened a couple of years ago, where the Jets won 2 games late in the year, and that moved down from the number 1 pick to the number 2 pick. Jaguars took Trevor Lawrence, they took Zach Wilson, and now you have what you have. But the Bears have their quarterback. They have their quarterback, and that quarterback, like this is where I'm at right now with this. That quarterback wants to win. And I think the Bears want everybody to just get in line with that. I'm bored with that. Like, this quarterback is willing to gut out injuries, risk injury, play through injuries, because he wants to win. He wants that feeling of a win again. And I think everybody at Hallis Hall, or they want everybody at Hallis Hall to get on board with that. I mean, how does that sound like what's happening to you?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, you have to hear it enough to really feel like, because all athletes are going to tell you they want to win. That's the number one thing. It's about the team. But I do think that in the case of Justin Fields, there is legitimacy to it when he says he'll do whatever he has to do to win. I loved when he was asked about wanting, is it a goal to run for 1,000 yards every year? And he's like, hell no. No, I don't want to do that, man. I want to pass the football. I want to be a passing quarterback. He gets it. Like the conversations that we all have, he's got to pass more. He's got to be. They're having the same conversations backstage at Hallis Hall. But I also love what he said at the end. Hey, if I have to run 1,000 yards every season, if I have to run for 100 yards per game, that's what I'll do. It's not ideal. And it does seem that he takes, I mean, we all know this, and he takes losses very hard. I've had a couple times when I do that locker room interview with him where he'll apologize to me before the interview, and he'll say, just so you know, this might be rough for me. Like he said, like, he's like, I am not happy right now. And he'll give me the disclaimer, almost telling me, be ready for some short answers. So he takes losses hard.
That's cool that he says that, though.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about,
because that also shows you he gets it too and kind of understands that.
So just to explain it, that like, Mark talks to Justin Fields before the rest of us do, and you sit next to him in his locker room, so it's more intimate conversation about wins and losses.
Yeah, no, it is, and I like I said, after wins, he's definitely wanting to expand more on things, but he's been a trooper throughout the season. I mean, that's tough. I mean, I'm just thinking about this right now. Having to be the first person that talks after games, talking to me and then talking to the rest of the media and all the responsibilities that he has. If we are correct about a guy that hates to lose and will do anything to win, it's just got to be a drag for him, and you can see it on his face. And he's just, he is genuine in his disgust. and the fact, I think that the fact that he, will occasionally apologize to me, I think that everybody should know. Like, it's the same way when he's at large, when he's talking to all of you guys, he probably understands that he may not be satisfying everybody with his answers, but he's pissed off, and hopefully there'll be some happier conversations next year, or maybe even in the next 2 games.
Grody, appreciate you coming on with us today. It's always fun, and just we're glad you're thought out, and and you're. I was
gonna say the 50 degrees coming this week is gonna feel like you're in Phoenix.
Where is it? Like, I can't. Every time I walk out of my house now, I'm like, people have been talking about this 50 degrees. It's not 50 degrees yet. So
well, you know what that means. 50 degrees this time of year. It'll be pouring rain.
yeah, exactly. Well, I'm about to. I'm still at the score. I'm gonna go walk home in the cold right now and have a nice little nap. And Hoge look forward to hearing you in the afternoon on the score. Adam, always a pleasure to you too, Mr. Johns.
Mark, thank you.
Thank you so much. There he is, Mark Grote, our guy. Appreciate it, Mark. Hey guys, you know that shaving is not fun. It's always a pain, but that's why you got to meet Henson Shaving. Henson Shaving is a family-owned aerospace parts manufacturer that has made parts for the ISS, Mars rover, and now they are bringing precision engineering to your shaving experience. By the way, ISS, International Space Station. Pretty cool stuff. Because razor blades are like diving boards, actually. The longer the board, the more wobble. The more wobble, the more nicks, cuts, scrapes you get. Bad shave isn't a blade problem, it's an extension problem. So by using aerospace grade CNC machines, Henson makes metal razors that extend just enough, less than the thickness of a human hair. That means a secure and stable blade with a vibration-free shave. And it gets better. The razor has built-in channels to evacuate hair and cream, which makes clogging virtually impossible. Seriously, Henson Shaving wants the best razor, not the best razor business. That means no plastic, no subscriptions, no proprietary blades, no planned obsolescence. The Henson razor works with standard dual-edged blades to give you that old-school shave with the benefits of new-school tech. Once you own a Henson razor, it's only about $3 to $5 per year to replace the blade. Seriously. All right, I'm going to be honest with you. I am not a big fan of razor blades. I typically use the electric way to go about this, but Henson Shaving, you're going to want to check it out. The blades are great, but also the weighted handle is a huge difference maker as well. I really like it. It's time to say no to subscriptions and yes to a razor that'll last you a lifetime. Visit hensonshaving.com/Adam to pick the razor for you. Use code Adam. You'll get 2 years worth of blades free with your razor. Just make sure to add them to your cart. That's 100 free blades when you head to hensonshaving.com/Adam, hensonshaving.com/Adam. Use code Adam. Hey, if you're like me, you're getting a lot of packages at your door every day right now with the holidays, but when the Omaha Steaks box arrives, there's nothing better. Give the best with the best steaks of your life from Omaha Steaks, America's original butcher since 1917. Perfectly aged, tender, unforgettable, and guaranteed delicious. The steak experts at Omaha Steaks have put together an assortment of various packages to make shopping for the ones you love nice and easy. Go to omahasteaks.com. Use code Adam at checkout to get an additional $30 off your order. Send an assortment of mouth-watering favorites guaranteed to impress, like the legendary butcher's cut filet mignon, air-chilled boneless chicken, ultra juicy burgers, and even easy to prepare comfort meals that are ready in a flash. Omaha Steaks is ready to ship your order right away. Head to omahasteaks.com. Use promo code Adam at checkout. Omaha Steaks is a gift from the heart, a gift that will be remembered with every unforgettable bite. Order with complete confidence today, knowing you're ordering the very best. Visit omahasteaks.com. Use promo code Adam. I'm telling you, when that box arrives, you see that meat that comes in there, you are going to be excited to throw it on the grill right away. I love it every time it shows up. Use promo code Adam at checkout to get that extra $30 off your order. All right. We got to wrap things up here. Before we get to our voicemails, which were short this week because it was Christmas, any final thoughts on what we were just talking about there? I will say that one more thing. I do think it's important that these are divisional games. Like, when you're a quarterback, like, think about everything Aaron Rodgers knows about the Bears, knows about the Vikings, even Kirk Cousins to this point, the equity that he's built up playing these teams within your division. I do think there's something to be said for that feels like he needs experience in general, but getting more experience against the Lions and Vikings matters too.
Well, it's just not Fields. It's Tevin Jenkins returning. It's Kyler Gordon seeing Justin Jefferson. Or St. Brown.
Sure.
It's those. Forget, like, one things that coaches say that annoys me the most, like mental reps. I hate mental reps. Like, like I get it. Like he's going through mental reps. No, he's on the sideline watching. You can't replace actual play. So I understand where the coaches are coming from. I think what I articulated to Mark is where I stand on things is Justin Fields wants to win, and everybody get on board with that. That's where the Bears are. That's where I think it's a struggle for some readers, listeners, fans to get on board with that because of the second overall pick and potentially the first. But the quarterback wants to win and is willing to do anything right now to win. I try to see value in that.
See, I kind of find this whole thing hilarious because, like, that's what you want. You want your players to want to win. You want it to matter to them. That's great. And then meanwhile, guess what? They're not going to win. So it's kind of the perfect sin. Like, I don't really see any reason to get worked up over it. I mean, I will say there's maybe like a small percentage, mainly just because it's the Lions, and the Lions are the Lions. As you know what, I think we fell into the trap too, Johnsy. We finally gave the Lions some credit last week, and what did they do? They went to Carolina and they fell in the Lions.
They look like the Lions, yeah.
Yes, they did it. They disappointed their fan base.
The Lions trap.
I mean, they just fell right into it.
That hole in the ground, where the lions, like
you ever seen that viral video in the lion enclosure at the zoo where the one lion's like walking and he's not really paying attention and he falls into the water?
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
That's what the Lions did last week in Carolina.
See, I'm imagining, ever see the movie Swiss Family Robinson? Old movie.
I don't know if I ever have. I mean, I'm obviously familiar with it. I don't think I've actually watched that, though.
They make like a tiger pit to catch a tiger. And I'm just subbing out the tiger and putting a lion in.
Well, the tigers are across the street from the Lions.
True.
That was it? They make it.
That's it. Well, okay, I could go on and on and on.
Okay. Let's get to our voicemails. Here they are. Again, we didn't get many because it was Christmas, and I don't think we even really solicited them. But our guy is in here though, which is most important. Here you go. Here's your voicemails from the Bears-Bills game.
Hello?
Do you know who this is?
Oh, you didn't know? Your ass better call somebody.
The Hoge Jahns voicemail. The Hoge Jahns voicemail line.
Believe it or not, George isn't at home. Please leave a message at the beep.
Got any questions or comments about the Bears? Give the guys a call before, after, or even during the game.
Go Bears!
Hey, Lucchetti, stop calling runs.
Genghis from St. Paul. It's obvious Justin Fields is the best athlete on the field for the Bears. I think number 2 may be Trent Gill. Is there any way we can get him to play either 3-tech or wide receiver? Maybe both. I don't think he's getting enough time on the field, and that's clearly a problem for the Beaverfloos. They're down.
Fellas, I got a hot take, and I got 2 eyeballs. Justin Fields looked better than Josh Allen today. Justin Fields looked better, even as the offensive coordinator was trying to hold him back. Love you guys.
Hey, Bears fans, B-Man here. We won by losing yesterday. Still got that second pick. Bear down!
Ho, 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 get cat and Johnsy's favorites, Bob Dabrowski's Merry Christmas. I am calling in a day late. Is actually Christmas. I was at Soldier Field yesterday, and something happened. Apparently it was a football game. No comments. Just calling in so that you guys don't worry about my physical and mental well-being. Just letting you know all is good. It's a very Merry Christmas. Football is currently going on. Again, real football. And the Bears played yesterday, and then soon, in 2 weeks, they will no longer be playing, and then the off-season begins, and it should be a fun off-season. And that is all I have to say about that. Go Bears. Let's go Chicago Bears.
Thank you, Bob. At this point, I'm just like, I want the Bears to, they just can't let B-Man down. Right? Like, do it for B-Man.
Give B-Man a win.
Yeah. All right. One last thing on the, we'll talk more about this on Thursday as we preview the weekend, but I was looking at like a week ahead and what the Vikings could or might not have to play for in week 18. They're technically still alive for the 1 seed, although they don't have the head-to-head tiebreaker because the Eagles kicked their ass back in week 2, I think that was. But technically, if the Eagles were to lose both games, which I don't think they will, but Jalen Hurts is still dealing with Jalen Hurts stuff, the Vikings could still have that in play based on this weekend's results. But I think they're still going to have to lock down the 2 seed because unless they lose, well, yeah, I think either way they're going to have to play because I'm pretty sure the 49ers have the tiebreaker over the Vikings because of a better conference record. And the only thing that would change that would be, okay, so here's your scenario. If the 49ers lose this week, which they play the Raiders in Vegas, and the Vikings beat the Packers, that would clinch them the 2 seed. And then I think if the Eagles win, they lock down the 1 seed. So that would be the scenario right there where the Vikings don't have anything to play for in week 18. I'm pretty sure. Don't quote me. We'll confirm that by Thursday, but I'm pretty sure that's it.
So what you're trying to suggest is whether or not the Vikings rest their starters in week
exactly.
Be week 19, right? Week 19? Week 18.
Week 18.
17-game season. Yeah.
Well, because if they're going to still play Fields and they really do have this attitude, like we want to go on into the offseason with the taste of victory, and meanwhile the Vikings actually sit their starters, that's the scenario where, I mean, look, you saw the Colts last night. They're awful. The Texans play them in week 18. Like, I think the 1 seed is very much on the table.
Yeah.
So watch the Bears go out and beat the Lions this week. It would be the most Lions thing ever.
If I have any final thought on this, because we're doing a bunch of draft stuff this week, I get you're talking about Will Anderson and Jalen Carter, 2 potential difference makers on the defensive line for the Bears, and the Bears have the worst pass rush. But it's just refreshing where you're not part of that quarterback conversation.
Yeah.
And that drives, changes, affects drafts so much. And the Bears have their guy. They do. And I think the obsession over certain slots, it's okay for the Bears to try to win one of these games. It really is.
Well, and that's why with all this Broncos discussion and Seahawks discussion and like how much the Seahawks fleeced the Broncos, I'm still sitting here and I'm going, yeah, they still got to find their next quarterback though. The Seahawks, that is. Like, yeah, it's great that they apparently traded Russell Wilson at the perfect time and they got these picks and they're going to have a high pick because they're going to have the Broncos pick, but that doesn't mean they're not going to accidentally draft their own Zach Wilson or Mitch Trubisky. You know what I mean? Like, they still have to get the pick right, and they're still not going to have the number 1 pick. And I don't know. I'm just getting early. I haven't studied these quarterbacks, obviously, as in depth as I will have by the time we get to April, but I'm not getting the same. I'm hearing all this stuff about 5 quarterbacks maybe in the top 10, 15, like all these sort of narratives that start and usually come true with the QBs because, as you always say, there's a separate draft for the quarterbacks, but I'm just not getting these great vibes from these quarterbacks.
Yeah. Well, it's early.
Yeah.
Some teams need new GMs, some teams need new coaches, and there's plenty of time for them to talk themselves into drafting a Will Levis significantly higher than he ever should be.
Yeah, and maybe that's a position of power for the Bears.
Or talking themselves out of like a Justin Fields.
Yeah. All right. Well, good stuff. Glad Grody was on today. We'll be back Thursday. Guess what? I'm going to Detroit this weekend.
What?
Yeah. You're like, what? I am. Yeah.
Kevin's going.
Yeah, I know. Kevin, mid-podcast, is texting me about hotels.
Is he?
We're going to have to figure that out. New Year's Eve in Detroit. Woohoo!
Get there early. There's some good games on Saturday.
I know, but the flights didn't really work out. Unless I left at like 8 a.m. I'm like, I don't want to spend all day
at the High Velocity at the JW downtown.
Yeah, not staying there this year. rates like $600 on New Year's.
You could still go there.
I could. Yeah, I could still.
You don't have to stay there to eat there.
I am going to miss our meal at Joe Mears, though.
Yes,
I don't think that's going to happen. So,
Favorite
all
spot
right. Yeah. I'm actually kind of excited about this game. I got to be honest with you. As long as Fields is playing, the Lions are still intriguing to me. They're kind of I hate to say they're kind of a fun team to watch.
Now, here you go again. You're talking yourself into the Lions.
Well, I'm not saying they're not going to lion. I'm just saying that they're more fun than they usually are. Yeah. We're not going to be watching David Blau out there on Thanksgiving Day. Okay. I mean, give Jared Goff credit. He's been solid. There's interesting pieces, and Dan Campbell's hilarious. So,
in my opinion, at least covering this team for the past decade, the Lions have always led in terms of players you've never heard of playing for the first time, like against your team.
Oh, yeah.
Like, who's that?
Always.
Who do I have to Google? Now the Bears are. Like, I think that's the Bears this year. So there's been so much turnover, but.
All right. I got to go. I got like 8 more shows to do today.
Yeah, save that voice.
Johnsy, get some sleep, and we'll be back on Thursday. Follow us on Twitter at Adam Hoge, at Adam Johns. Read that piece that Johns wrote on the what's been going on with all the players that are not on their team anymore, or maybe are, and what the opponent thinks about them. It's interesting stuff. Check it out on theathletic.com/Hoge and Johns. Find me on CHGO, allchgo.com, and we'll be back Thursday to preview this Week 17 game against the Lions in Detroit. Talk to you then.
See ya.